and then people will catch the recording. Good evening, guys. My name is Amanda. I think all of you know me. I'm just not sure now where are we in terms of doing poultry in this space so that it can be more relevant to you guys. But I have notes that I've written down here for broilers and for layers. And if any of you guys probably need these tips, I would advise that you have a pen and a paper out so that you can write what I have here. For broilers, I got information from Martin. Martin is a specialist from EPOL. Unfortunately, he plays rugby today, so he couldn't join us in the space. So he just sent me a couple of things or guidelines as to how do we feed our broilers that I can just read out to you guys. So one thing that I've realized is that I think in most cases than not, we tend to just feed without a guide. And at the end of the day, you find that maybe we use more feed than we're supposed to, or we use less feed than we're supposed to. um, and you find that the chickens are not growing the way that we need them to grow, or maybe the feed conversion is not as great as it would have been if the feed was been given to the chickens the way that it's supposed to. So if you feed your chickens more than you're supposed to, you would find that it doesn't really do anything in terms of the body weight. They just eat because broilers eat for the sake of eating. But at the end of the day, that would mean that you are losing money because they will not get to weigh maybe 3 kilograms in in 6 weeks, but it would happen maybe if they stayed up until 10 weeks because the feed conversion, which is supposed to be around 400 grams per day, I mean, the gain is supposed to be around 400 grams per day. It won't be more than that just because you're feeding them a lot. Okay, so for broilers, we from day 1 to day 18, we give them starter, and it should be 800 grams for that number of days. So basically, what you would do is that you would take the 800 grams and you divide by 18 days, and you will know how much you're supposed to give your chicken per day, and then you multiply by the number of chickens that you have in your coop. So um if you have 100 broilers, then you will take 800 grams times the 100 and then divide by 18 days. That's how you will know that if, let's say for example, it's 3 kgs or 2 kgs, then you know that you feed your chickens. If you're going to feed them twice in a day or 3 times in a day, then you would divide those kilograms. So, guys, while I speak, I am opening the floor for anyone that would like to add on, to ask, or whatever, so that I don't just speak the whole time. If there's burning questions or someone that wants to add on to what I am saying, so I am opening the floor. It's okay if you guys want to request. I'll give you the mic, and then you can come up, and then we just have a conversation. And then from day 19 to day 34, that's when you would give your chickens grower. And the amount of grower each chicken is supposed to get in that number of days is 1.8 kilograms. So you would divide the same way that I explained with regards to the starter. So 1.8 kilograms day 19 to day 34. And then from day 35 to day 42, that's when you give them the finisher. And the finisher has to, basically, it's up to 1 kilogram. So on a daily basis, you give them a ratio that is equivalent to the ratio that you're giving them from day 19 to day 34. and it has to at least be up to a kilogram, and you must sell. So the moment you start feeding your chickens more than that, it means that you would be making a loss, because it's more than these guidelines in order for you to be able to make money. And so but in also, I wanted to also add, in regards to finisher, I don't know, a lot of people, let me not say a lot of people, but some people actually do not give their chickens finisher. They usually sell when they are still on grower. And there's a misconception that grower feed has medication and you have to um, wash it out by giving your chickens finisher. That is not true. Finisher is not a washout or whatever. Finisher actually adds fat to your chickens. Grower adds meat to your chickens. The only thing that is different in these types of feed, you can't eat a chicken from starter feed, because the protein agent is too high, which would lead to the meat not tasting nice. But once it goes to grower feed actually will give you a, a, a good taste in the chicken. There's no medication that needs to be flushed out in the feed. And then the finisher, if your chickens maybe were not getting as big as you want them to, that's when you put them on finisher, because finisher would add a little bit of fat on the chicken. So that's what it is. There's no medication in the feed. And to the people that just joined the space, I did mention that if anybody has questions or additions to what I'm saying while I'm speaking, you can request the mic and I will give you the microphone. This session is basically, I'm trying to put across an understanding as to the ratios that are used in terms of feeding our chickens. So a person would need a pen and paper to write these down. But if you guys don't have them, or I lose you anywhere, you can come into my DM and then I can give you the information as well. So another thing that I've also seen is that the quality of chicks in the past 2 to 3 years has really gone down, which will lead to slow growth of chickens. And I think a lot of other people have also paid attention to this. The performance of the chickens are not as great anymore as they used to. And that has been caused by the shortage of fertile eggs and the shortage of chicks. And I think there has been an influx of many broiler farmers, or people going into broiler farming, which leads to the demand of day old chicks to being higher than it was before COVID. Um, so the best way to deal with this is that you shouldn't cut corners. You should actually buy quality feed, because there is feed that is lacking in maize, which is the energy agent in the production of the feed. So when feed is doesn't have enough maize, it means your chickens will forever be hungry. If you have ever done road runners, you will see that yellow maize actually does such a great job when it comes to raising your chickens. Because when you slaughter your chicken, you will see that it has this nice yellow fat. So it means that if there isn't enough yellow maize in the feed, it means that your chickens will not feel full and they will not grow as well as they would have if you had been using quality feed. So we should really just note that down. So now, if you feed your chickens the right way, as I have mentioned previously, the average weight at day 32 should be around 1.7 kilograms. So, meaning that for the people that usually want chickens at slaughter weight to be around 1.2, 1.3 kgs, it means you would slaughter at day 32. which is not bad because it's just short of 5 weeks. And then, so I think now that's the broiler feed. I would like to open the floor if you guys have any questions in that regard, because if you don't, then I will move on to the broiler house temperatures. I actually wanted to add something here at the top. So if you guys don't have any questions, then I will move on to the temperatures. And if you give me a moment, I will just post it uh, on my timeline and then bring it up to the space. Okay. So from day one, okay, there you go. Hi, Jafta.
Hi, I would like to know maybe if you are feeding, should you consider also time whether it's morning or late or which time maybe it does have a specific time to feed or not?
Thank you for your question. So basically, each of us have to develop our own feeding schedule. But obviously, when you think about yourself, I always like think of my animals as how I would think of myself or treat myself. So when you wake up in the morning, obviously you will want to eat. And we need to remember that broilers thrive on eating. So what I would advise is if you want to follow the strict measurements of raising your chickens, it would be best that you feed them 3 times a day. Then at least they don't have time when they're extremely hungry, which could lead to cannibalism, and also it can lead to um, overfeeding or overeating, because they would be fighting to get to the food since they won't know when their next meal will come. So if you feed them, you just count the hours between your days, and when you know that you want to um have them sleep, because also guys, I've covered the fact that making your broilers sleep is also good for feed conversion and for growth and for internal organ development. So if you know that you are going to put your lights out so that they can sleep, maybe they can have a little bit of food before they sleep, and then when the light comes on again, there would be food still left, because when it's dark they're not going to be eating. So you basically need to try and make it work around how you want to have your day go about in terms of your availability and raising your chickens. I don't know if you are answered. Okay, great. Thank you. Linking okay, there it is. It's at the top. So I don't know, guys, if there's more questions in regards to the feed, we can come back to them. If you guys are not having them yet, we will still come back. I don't have a problem. Um, so the broiler house temperatures, I've linked a tweet at the top. Then you guys can just go into it later, or even um save that image to your phones. So when you incubate, I run a hatchery. So my temperatures for hatching is that I put the incubator on 34.5 degrees, and then the humidity is at 65. So now, if you think about a day old chick coming out of that type of temperature and you bring it to a cold house, obviously it won't survive, because number one, a day old chick, I'm sorry guys, there's a train passing. A day old chick is not yet able to create or to have their own body temperature. So it needs you to help it so that um, it can survive. When they are very cold, they usually crowd, and you find that some of them are going to die from the other ones being heavy on them. So you need to help it develop its own immunity by creating an environment that is allowing for it. So the temperatures from day one, when you place your chicks, you obviously, we did house preparation. If you guys check on YouTube, we have the spaces on house preparation. If you type poultry spaces, it should pop up. Your house needs to already be hot before you bring your chickens, so that when they arrive, they automatically become happy chicks. So on day one, the temperature of the house needs to be 34 degrees. It can be away from the heat source. It can be 33 degrees and they will be fine. Then from there, you proceed to reducing the temperature of the house by 0.03. And then, as you guys can see, I think if you guys can just check at day three, uh, they can be at 32 degrees, day 7, 31 degrees, all the way to day 21, which is 26 degrees. When you get into the brooder, you can usually feel the change in the temperature. You can feel the change in the humidity, because as when they get older, then that's when they're developing their immunity, especially from day 14. That's when they start showing signs of being able to not need too much heat. So you have to continuously try to decrease the temperature all the way to day 21, and it will be at 26 degrees. Obviously, we know that unless you have a house that is designed, in the commercial way, maintaining temperatures is not that easy. We can only try. So if you can be around certain temperatures, then you should be safe. And then you can try to introduce certain ways to try and help your house to be able to maintain the humidity and the temperatures. So another point that I wanted to also put across is that uh, when you are making your house hot, it does not mean that you are taking away ventilation. When you are ventilating your house, it does not mean you are taking away heat. So, and also, ventilation is not air or wind that is blown straight to your cheeks. Your chickens still, you have to protect them from being hit by wind directly. Ventilation is designed, or is something that is there so that the gases don't build up in your chicken house. So meaning that when you check the wall of the house, it's as high as what the chicken needs. The parts that are open are the parts that the wind goes in from one direction, goes out from the other direction, and then when the wind direction changes, just like that. So your chickens should not be directly hit by wind. Your warmth should not be affected by your ventilation system. If you check these big chicken farms, you will see that some of those farms have um, they open their curtains just a little bit at the top, depending on the wind direction, so that if the other side is not letting in too much wind, they open that side. If the other side is letting in too much wind, then they open a little bit so that the wind can just go across and not touch the chickens, because you don't want your chickens to get sick. So let's not take away the heat by ventilating. Let's not take away ventilation by heating. One thing that we can use to try and keep your house at proper ventilation temperatures, or at proper temperatures, not extreme heat or extreme cold. There's a thing that is called an insulation foil. It's like thermal foil. You can put it on the roof, because I know that a lot of us are actually using corrugated iron for our roofs. So if you can get that before we go into winter, if you can, you put it um just underneath your what's this thing, your pine whatever, on the roof. You put that as your ceiling, then it's going to help your house to not be too hot and to not be too cold. So if you guys can actually try to get that, because um the reason why I was saying that, if you don't have enough ventilation in the house, your chickens will have ascites or water belly in winter. It's a disease that, when your chickens are 5 weeks, that's when they start dropping dead. And that disease will cause your meat, the meat of your chicken, even if, let's say, you were to slaughter that chicken before it dies on its own, if it has water belly, the meat of your chicken will be red in color, and it will not be good for your customers. It will not taste good. So if you sell that type of meat to your customer, then they will start rejecting you. You lose your customers because of that. So it's all, and failing to ventilate doesn't happen at week 3. It doesn't happen at week 4. It happens from day 1. So you will be raising your chickens from day 1, and you are not giving them ventilation because you think they are small, they need heat, let me close and not give them ventilation. Then at 5 weeks you start paying the price, because they will drop dead and you won't understand what is going on. It happens a lot in winter. The reason for that is because winter days are short and longer nights. And because it's cold, you find that we feel sorry for our chickens and we don't want to give them ventilation. And then another reason is that there isn't enough air movement generally in the environment, because winter is generally just quiet, and it's like there's no movement, there's no rain, there's no, it's just heat, that it isn't very hot. So you guys need to try to put the insulation sheets on your roof, which will cut down on the cold, to make sure that the house is not cold, and to make sure that you will be able to still give your chickens ventilation, so that you don't suffer with water belly. Okay. um Before I go forward with this part, I just wanted to know if you guys understand, and you don't have any questions or things that you wanted to add. Oh, and by the way, there's one thing I forgot to say. With broilers, they can go all the way after post to day 21. They can have, their temperature can remain at 19 degrees. Yeah, I think 19 degrees or 18, they will still be fine. So I don't know, guys, if you are sorted. Abut Tuhang, don't you have anything you want to add? I know you're late, but oh, and I have a tip on how you can heat up your house. You can use imbaula, you can use gas, you can use electricity and biobrick. There's a guy here on Twitter that is selling biobrick. I'll try to find him and retweet his tweet, and then you guys can also contact him. I tried the fan heater. There was a day when it was pretty cold here. I think it was 4 degrees cold in the mornings. And there were people that had asked about the fan heater. So I decided to give it a shot. And it actually works quite well for a layer house. I'm not sure about a broiler house because you would have to place the heater in a direction that the air is not going to blow straight to your chickens, because I don't think that's going to be healthy for them. They will probably have problems with their nose, blocked nose, or whatever. So you can use the fan heater if you have a way of protecting your chickens from being blown by the from by the air. So yeah, those are the what you guys can use to heat up your chicken houses. There's also an easy way. There's an easy mbaula that you guys can actually make yourselves using the oil drums. We've lost Tohang. It's probably his network. You guys can also do that. I'm gonna tweet it as well. I have a picture. Then you guys can try to have that. I know that a lot of people stop farming in winter because of the temperatures. But if you want to continue farming, you can give these tips a try. Abuti, are you there? Okay, while we try to get him back, I'm gonna move on to layers. I don't know if you guys are covered with broilers. If you are, I'll move on to layers. Um, so feeding ratio, let me add that to my Twitter. Hey Abuti.
Greetings, Amanda, and greetings to everyone. Yeah, it's a and talk less because I am quite practical and I do a lot of experiments. So some of the things that you said we mustn't do, I have done wrong and I've paid the price. So I'm gonna listen more, and then as you go on, I will just add based on my experience and the experiments that I've carried out that has cost me. Because you mentioned something very important about the belly water. There is a farmer who's paid a huge price. I will tell you what he did. Let me see. He's not in the space now because he'll kill me. All right. Can you hear me, Osamanda? Table Shaker, can you hear me?
Yes, Abuti, I can hear you.
Oh,
Sorry, I'm trying to put
yeah.
something on Twitter.
Okay, fine. I
Sorry.
wanted to tell you. So, what this farmer did was he came up with a new method, which I also tried, to say you must have some form of a plastic that you can put your create a brooder with a plastic, and you can put your chickens in there so that you conserve the heat. And ventilation was not taken care of. So at the young age, they seemed to be doing well. There was no mortality whatsoever, um, and it looked like no, this is a winning solution. But as they got older, they started dying. So it's only today when you're saying this that I'm learning that. So it was water belly. So it's important that we listen in because winter is coming, and I was also planning on getting a tent to put my chickens in a tent, and so that I can conserve heat and only put one heater in there. So the question of ventilation is a big issue here. I must probably introduce an extractor or something like that. So you're right, winter is a challenging time for farmers. We spend a lot of money on heating, and there is a reason why a lot of farmers don't farm in winter. But I'm an all seasons farmer, so I have to have chickens from January to December every month, and I can't not have chickens. It doesn't matter whether it's raining or what happens. So I go through all this, and I usually learn later when I'm beaten. And thank you very much, Os Amanda. This is a very, very, very important topic that you put up there. I will learn a lot today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abuti. We all learn via our mistakes. We have Siwale as a speaker. Good evening, sir. Muswani. Hello. Hi. Hi. Pronunciation, young Shaya. Okay. While we wait for him, I think his network is not good. Musyani. If you can hear me, once your network is back up, you can just have your hand up and I'll give you the mic because I can't hear you right now. Okay, I'm gonna move to layers, guys. I don't know, I think I'm slow or something because I mean it's 20 to 8 now. Okay, so in regards to layers, I am gonna post this thing after the space because I'm struggling to go between tweeting so that I can attach the tweet at the top and also having to speak at the same time. So I'll just tweet it once I'm done. I hope you guys have your pens. But okay, so just to say, or just to, you know, gxizelela what Abuti Tsugang was saying, guys, ventilation is the most important thing for your chickens. If your chickens are lacking ventilation, you will pay painfully after you have fed them from day 1 to day 35, and then they start dropping dead. They fall on their backs, and you will see that the chicken is red, and you will wonder what's going on. But if you open the belly, you will find water, yellow water inside. That is ascites or water belly. It's caused by lack of ventilation, and that happens a lot in winter. So try to not be a part of that. Okay, so if you decide to raise your own layers from day 1 to week 42, 40, week 40, when they are supposed to start laying, um, you will need to feed them differently compared to how you feed your broilers. So, um, a day old chick all the way to 6 weeks. So, you would have to divide 6 weeks, which is 42 days, by this amount of feed that I'm going to be telling you guys. And then that's when you will know how much per day per chicken, and then you divide that by 2. Feeding them twice has worked for me, and I think it works for a lot of other farmers. So they're not like broilers, whereby you need to consistently give them feed in order for them to be happy. So, okay, from day 1 to 6 weeks, the 42 days, you can feed your chicks 1 to 1.2 kilograms. So you will take that 1.2 or 1.1, maybe you can just put it in between and do 1.1 and divide by 42. You'll get your grams, and then you divide each gram by 2. And then you know that in the morning they get this gram, in the evening they get that gram. But obviously, what you do is, depending on the number of birds you have in your house, you will multiply that, the daily grams, and then maybe you'll get, I think it's about 3 kgs. And then in the morning they get 1.5, in the evening they get 1.5. That's how you feed them for 6 weeks. And then from there you start putting them on grower. Most people actually do not have developer, so you would have to put them on grower all the way to laying mash. So grower from 6 to 12 weeks, which is another 6 weeks, which is another 42 days. You put them on the grower and the kilograms per bird for 42 days is 2.5 to 3 kgs. So you just check, you put the kilograms between those 2 kgs. So you can make it 2.7, you can make it 3 kgs, you can make it 2.5. You use your own discretion there. And then from week 12 to week 18, if you do have developer, not a lot of suppliers actually stock that. So I usually just continue with grower. You would put grower or developer 12 to 18 weeks, which is another 6 weeks. It will be between 3 and 3.6 kgs. And the same thing applies how I explained how you calculate. And then most people actually start giving their chickens laying mesh at week 17. But the standard is that you only start giving them at week 18, you start giving them laying mesh. But if you want to start at 17, it's also still fine. The reason why you have to allow layers to grow so slow is in one of the poultry spaces that I've posted, but they need to have sexual maturity. So sexual maturity of a hen, you can see at the vent or on the vent or in the vent at the back, the booty. When you peep under the feathers there, you will see the vent opening up. It becomes bigger and bigger to actually allow eggs to come out. So if you rush your chickens to start laying eggs and sexual maturity hasn't been reached, your eggs will be small. Your chickens will lay very, very small eggs. And nobody wants to buy small eggs. I'm struggling to sell my medium eggs because people want large eggs. So it's always best to just not be in a hurry, just take it easy, allow your chicken to have a proper sexual maturity. And then the laying mesh. Now, when you start putting them on laying mesh, it's usually 120 to 140 grams per chicken per day. So meaning that if you're doing 120, it's 60 grams. If you're doing 140, it's 70 grams in the morning, 70 grams in the evening per chicken. Basically, if you stick to how you calculate your feed, then you would be able to plan ahead. You will know that in a month, this is how many bags of feed that you actually need. And there shouldn't be wastage. So every drop of feed that falls on the ground actually counts, because it would mean that if you calculated that you only need 80 kilograms in a week and you spill your feed, then it means that you're going to need more feed, which doesn't make financial sense because now you're not sticking to the plan. Okay. So I think that's the part about feed. If you guys have questions in that regard, you can request the mic and I will give you the floor. If you are satisfied, then I can move on to the heating of the layer house. Okay, I'll continue while you guys think if you have questions or not. And okay, so if you are raising your chickens from day one as well, the same thing still applies. Layers are also incubated. They also hatch at 35 degrees. So meaning you can't take out your day-old chick and put it in a cold house that is maybe 20 degrees and expect your chicks to not die. The incubator is very hot. Well, not hot, but it's hot for them. And you need to create the same environment with ventilation if anyone has ever seen an incubator running, it has ventilation holes, and those ventilation holes are forever open when we're busy incubating. There's there's humidity. There's a humidity clock. When they're hatching, they hatch at 65 to 70 to 75 humidity. They hatch at 35 degrees. So when you move your chickens to your brooder, you need to create that setup. You warm up your brooder before you place your chickens, and then when they go in there, you basically have to have the same temperatures as you would with the broiler house. As you can see above, I've posted a tweet that has the temperatures. However, with layers, once they get to laying age, okay, I don't know. Before I continue, I would like to give Mr. Chipesa a chance to speak.
Hi, Shekhar. My name is actually Chipesha, but yeah, it's fine. Okay, I wanted to find out, do you by any chance make your own feed? And if you do, can you share the ratios in terms of how you make your feed? Thanks.
That is a dream, my friend. Unfortunately, not yet, but I can link you up with a doctor that actually has he's able to produce feed, and he's selling vitamins that are used in the feed. I've had him in the space as well. So if you do go to YouTube to try and catch up on Poultry Spaces, you will see the feed production space. I think we did it in Jan. Yeah, so you can just send me a DM if you do want to get in touch with the doctor. He's from Ghana, but he's based here in SA.
Okay, thanks. We'll do that.
Okay, so okay. Yes, contrary to how we raise layers, or to broilers, or how we manage the heating system in the broiler house, layers are different when they are at point of lay, because actually from after brooding period, which is brooding is 21 days. So after brooding, or 6 weeks, you can put them in the brooder for 6 weeks, because they grow slow. But after that, they don't want too much heat. So layers layers want a max of 24 degrees and lowest of 18 degrees. So, guys, it's very important to actually have a thermometer in all your broiler houses. I mean, in all your chicken houses, because you are basically uh, looking for a needle in a dark house if you try to use your own discretion without using the technology that is there, or the things that are supplied for us to actually know for sure if we are on the right track. Because even with myself, even with an incubator that comes new with a thermometer thing where you will see the temperature and the humidity, I still have to go and make sure that what it's saying is actually what it is. And how I do that is that I bring in maybe two more thermometers, and I put them in there to see if it matches. And if it's out, then I have to work with the numbers that are out. So if it says 35 when it's actually 36, then I would put it on 34. I think it's called to calibrate. So thermometer is very important for you to have in your broiler house, because it's the greatest guideline. You will know when you have reached your temperatures. You will know when, yes, you can tell when your chickens are too hot sometimes because they tend to hyperventilate, but there's also diseases that cause chickens to hyperventilate, and you think they are too hot, but actually they are struggling to breathe. So have a thermometer and rule out other things, so that you can know when it's a disease or it's actually hot in the house. When your layer house is too hot or too cold, then it affects your layers negatively in that the egg production is going to drop because your chickens are not happy. And last 2 weeks, I think, in our space, we spoke about um, trying to give chickens stress pack, because when it's too hot, stress pack helps them. When it's too cold, stress pack also helps them. But we can't always rely on giving our chickens medication. So the best thing to do is to try and implement these measures to try and avoid having to, because you're also spending, when you're continuously using stress pack, you're spending money to, let's try to cut down on our costs. So yeah, I don't know. The people that arrive late, I did suggest that most of us have corrugated iron as our roofing. So the best way to try and control temperatures, um, to not be extremely hot or extremely cold, it's better to have an insulation foil, uh, thermal foil. Abuti, what is that foil thingy called again? The right word?
Um, it's a heat deflecting sheet.
Yes, that. It makes sure that your house is not too cold, and it also makes sure your house is not too hot. So if you guys can invest in that, then I promise you farming will not feel so difficult in winter, and actually even in summer, because sometimes in summer it gets very, very hot, especially for people in Limpopo, and then they have to withhold feed because their chickens are struggling to breathe because it's very hot. So prevention is always better than trying to cure the situation. So I think I've covered all my notes. Yeah, I think I've covered all my notes, guys. If you have any questions to what I have said, I am open to that. Yes, Abuti?
Okay. So what happens if you raise your broilers at lower temperatures than what is recommended?
Great question. I'm glad you asked because I forgot. So basically, if you you manage to raise your broilers without them dying or killing each other due to fighting for the light, and they actually do grow to 4 or 5 weeks again, then they start dying from heart attacks. When it's hot outside, they can't handle the heat because they are not used to it. Remember, I said at the beginning, when you are creating the environment for your day old chick brooding, you are basically helping your chicken form its what is this English word now? Immunity. So you are helping it climatize. You are teaching it, this is how earth is from the egg. So now when it becomes too hot, then it doesn't understand because you never taught it that. You literally need to feel so hot when you get into your brooder. Your chickens are happy even if you are unhappy with the temperature for your own body. So yeah, I hope I answered you properly.
Yes, you did. I'm asking this question because the tricky thing about raising broilers is some of the things that you do wrong at the early stage, they don't affect you immediately as you are doing them wrong. They only affect you at the later stage. So hence I was asking the question. tend to think that all is well until maybe 5 weeks or so, then you start experiencing challenges. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Abuti, for the question. Yeah. So basically, guys, when you brood wrong, when you fumble your brooding, you will suffer at 5 weeks. Four 4 to 5 weeks. Maybe masizidlula ku 4 weeks iinkukhu zakho and you think, yeah, I'm ready now. You start advertising, and then just before 5 weeks they start dropping. Three every morning you go, in the evening when you get the five, depending on your stocking capacity. But they will drop like flies if you mess up brooding. Ventilation and heat are important. The presence of ventilation is not the absence of heat. The presence of heat is not the absence of ventilation. Yes, Abuti?
Yeah, I will ask you a lot of questions today. You said we can ask questions, right?
Of course.
All right. Can we talk about stress pack for broilers? I'm going to talk about broilers now because my layers are free ranging. So, what is there any side effects to giving overdose of stress pack or less stress pack? I just want to understand that do you have to get it right? Like, because I see different programs suggesting different days that you must give stress pack, and obviously, as you know, we have a lot of farmers who have years of experience, and they always have their stories that if you use this, it has that side effect and whatnot. So I'd like to hear from you. What are the effects of giving too much stress pack or less stress pack, and can you really measure and be safe with stress pack?
Okay, so stress pack is minerals and vitamins. Okay, so meaning that, like, you can't really give too much of it. How I don't even use a spoon to measure my stress pack. I just pour it in and it will be yellow like juice. So, and you can give your chickens stress pack all the way to, let's say, um 7 days before slaughter or 7 days before selling. Then that's when you can start withholding. When you are in a stressful environment, like the people that were here in the space earlier, they heard there was a very loud train that passed here next to my house. So that's a stressful environment for chickens. So meaning, in order for me to have a chicken that is not stressed here, I need to give them lots of stress pack up until they get used to it, because remember, an animal is conditioned to understand the space. People can say no, you can't shout, you can't, but if you are always shouting every day, because when you enter at day one in the coop, they are afraid of you. Even when you come in, they run. When you try to do this, they run. Then time goes. When you come in, they come towards you because now they are demanding feed. So you see, it's a condition. So even if you are in a space whereby they would be stressed, you try to reduce the stress up until they get used to ukuthi umakhelwane ubamba uthatha isigubhu every Saturday. Then they will be used to it. They won't be afraid of it anymore. So you can't give too little stress pack. According to my experience, remember this is personal experience. Maybe somebody else will say no, it's bad, but I have never had a problem. If anything, it has saved my chickens from stress, from because it has vitamin C. It cools them down when it's hot, and so on and so forth. I hope I answered you, Abuti.
No, you did. I just also want to caution to those who are learning about poultry farming that what you're going to get is you can get 10 different answers to one question. And that is because there's things that are written on Google, that people Google, which are written by certain people, obviously, And then you will find answers like what Amanda has just given now, which is personal experience. And for me, the measure of successful personal experience is mortality and repetition, as to how long have you been doing it and how long has it been working for you, as opposed to learning something which is written by a person I don't know who says this is how it should be. Because at the end of the day, we don't actually follow the programs that we get. Not all of us. I mean, myself, I don't follow those programs that I get from Alzu. I prefer to talk to farmers and hear their experience and then take it from there. So, yeah, you've really answered that question well. It removes a lot of myths that I've heard people say, no, your stress pack will cause split legs and all those things. And I mean, this is what we come across. Just to go off track a bit here, this weekend I came across an old man who's been farming for years. Apparently, he's been doing it for 20 something years. He came to my farm, looked at my chickens, and said, these chickens are too small. I asked him why. He said, look, they don't have feathers. Then I said, okay, let me take a scale and checked the weight, and the weight was 2.5 kgs. So he couldn't believe it. Then I was worried that I can't learn from a person like this, because then he wants to measure things with his eyes. He doesn't have instrument. He doesn't have a thermometer in his farm. He doesn't have a scale. He wants to say, no, I know the chicken behavior, because we all know when you read, they say no. If they are scattered, they are feeling cold. I mean, if they are crowded, they are feeling cold. They're trying to warm each other and all those type of things. I think those type of things you need instruments for, and you must also check as well the information that you picking up is if people are really using it, like Table Chick has just said. Now you're really doing that and it's working for you, then it's possible that I can also try it and it will work for me, uh, because now it's not something that I'm just reading off a book. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abuti. Yes, honestly, there are people, um, because I'm a runner, and you meet people that have been running for years that have green numbers there by comrades in Durban. And because you're a new runner, they will try to come at you and tell you about how you're doing certain things wrong, and so on and so forth, because they feel that they have more experience than you. But in actuality, you'll find that they are still running the olden day way. They they don't understand every anything that is involved in when you try to improve your running and what you need to do, and so on and so forth. So it's the same thing with, I'm guessing, with farmers that have been there. Some of them, maybe even when they vaccinate, they don't even know that chlorine actually kills the vaccine. They've just been um, lucky to not have maybe Newcastle on their stock. But you can they probably don't know that you can vaccinate, you can put a vaccine in water, but if the water has high levels of chlorine, then it means that that vaccine, because it's a bacteria, is going to be killed by the chlorine, and you will just be giving your chickens clean water without a vaccine. So they you're right. You have to look at a person and how they talk about the farming, how they actually manage it. I mean, I've been to a farm. You find that when you walk in, chickens are dead. They're just laying there on the ground, and you ask yourself, are you not seeing that chicken? So you find that maybe they only take the chickens at the end of the day to go and count, okay, this is so many chickens that died. But we all know that when, okay, with layers, I don't know, I've never seen it with broilers, but with layers, when a chicken is dead, the other layers will come and eat that dead chicken. You will find bones exposed if you don't take it on time. So, and also it's just not healthy. So I can't go and say, no, please teach me your ways when I see that you're running your farm, however, and you actually don't really care about the cleanliness of the chicken house and all of that. So, but guys, I don't know if you guys, yes, Abuti?
Yeah. Talking about that, sorry, I gotta move from the chicken house. Talking about that, so when a chicken dies in your a broiler, because obviously there is mortality with broilers. If you're gonna walk into a chicken house and your chicken house is long, and you get to the end of the chicken house and you pick up a chicken that is dead, and you want to walk all the way out with it, I discourage that. That is just based on my personal experience, is that rather take one of your feed bags, the empty one, go there, pick up the chicken and put it in that bag and walk out with it, because sometimes there could be some liquids or discharges that are falling off a chicken as you are walking with it from where it is all the way through your chicken house, infecting other areas where perhaps, because you don't know at that moment when the chicken falls as to what could be the reason. So I don't encourage that. I see a lot of people in their farms, they would just walk in and then pick up a chicken and walk with it out, and it would be dropping some liquids and things like that, which I'm not really sure what it is, but I discourage that. I don't I don't think that it's a good practice. So rather walk in with a with an empty bag and put your chicken in a bag. Just make sure that it doesn't pass any infections, if there's any, onto other chickens. And the issue of broilers eating at that one, we haven't experienced that, and I wish that we're not going to in any time ever in the life of our farming. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abuti, for that piece of advice. It's actually, received, because we are a bit negligent. Sometimes we don't think about those things. Um, because really, when your chicken is dead, you don't know the cause. So if you just going to treat it like that, and after you take it outside, you go back and you touch your feed, you touch your other chickens, you might be, firsthand transferring diseases to your own chickens that are still alive. That's why it is advised that you have a hospital in on your farming space, whereby you practice isolation for the chickens that are sick, because most diseases are transferred via ingestion and via droppings. So if a chicken has mycoplasma, for example, it's it's transferable to other chickens from the saliva. They're eating from the same place, and the droppings, if they drop poop in the water, and then the other ones come drink, and then all of a sudden your whole flock has mycoplasma when you could have avoided it. By when you see that this one has mycoplasma, take it aside, let it go heal on its own if it's gonna heal, let it die on its own if it's gonna die. Okay, we have Lishonolo. Good evening, Abuti. Lishonolo, are you in the space? Abuti, you can go while we wait for Lishonolo.
Okay. I know that you spoke about various methods of heating. I'm very interested in the coal, because I heard that if you are if you are using coal, the I don't know what the coal emits. It can affect the chickens, and some people then say you need to give them mint and stuff like that. I haven't really used coal for brooding, so if you can just maybe elaborate a little bit on that, on what are the dangers of using coal for brooding.
Okay, thank you. Um, okay, so number one, when you are using Mbaula method, it's always best that you make your fire outside. because especially with raw coal, that is the one that burns longer. So if you're gonna go buy a coal to fry meat, then you are wasting money, because it's not going to have the durability in the chicken house. You will stay a week so that you can go your malash. So you would have to use raw coal, and raw coal has a very very strong smell, and the smoke that comes from it is very dark, like it's very white. So you would have to make the fire outside, number one. Number two, I wouldn't advise that your mbaula be the open one. I would say that it's best you have the one that has a chimney. I'm going to post it after this space. It's best to have the one that has the chimney, and have the chimney nozzle out of your chicken coop. And then number three, you need to fireproof where you are placing your mbaula. So if you can build a, a slab where you will place your drum, and you're sure that it won't fall over. There was a picture I saw once upon a time on the timeline, and it was not a pretty one. Someone's chicken house bent down with the chickens inside. So everything must not be half done. You need to do proper, um, what is this English? When you have to check the possibility of a danger before it happens. Risk analysis, yes, that's the word. So you need to do proper risk analysis whenever you do anything in your chicken house. That's why I even said that with the I could have just switched on the fan and left. But you look at the wind, you think about yourself. When you're sitting in the car and the aircon hits you straight in the face, how do you feel? So, and if you don't feel good, why would you want that to happen to your chickens? What do you expect to happen? So I don't know, Abut, if I've answered you, but the fire must burn outside. And then you only bring the hot coal inside the house and put it in your safe bowl.
No, thank you very much. You've answered my question. I just wanted to make sure that I understand the dangers of using it. Yeah, it's clear. Thank you very much. We can continue.
All right, thank you. Lishonolo, are you back?
Oh, I'm back, guys. I don't have much to say, but then what I can tell is that I'm currently an agricultural student, one of the best colleges of agriculture in Limpopo, which is Lega College of Agriculture. So I haven't started with a business yet, but then this space, obviously, will get to know how things are done when I have completed my course. So I'm just here to get the useful information so that I can utilize it once I have completed. I'm still a college of agriculture. Am I clear?
Yes, I got you.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
All right.
So hence I
Thank you
attend
so
this
much,
spaces.
Lishonolo.
Thank you, sister.
All right. Thank you for coming through to the space. And we do hope that you can learn a lot more, and just know that we are here as well, to guide and to give advice where we can. Just know that it's personal experience. You can't take us to court for it if it fails. It has worked for us. So, but yeah, we're here, and good luck with your studies. Guys, I don't know if there's any more questions, but I think I've covered the topic for today. And I honestly do hope that you guys can start implementing because it's getting dark already, and it's getting cold. And with regards to people that are doing layers, you can also try to get different colors of lights, red and green, to try and manipulate the lighting in your chicken coop, because since daylight is going to be short, we're going to use we need the very bright light. So in your chicken house, you must be able to read a book. That's how bright it must be. And um, as long as the temperatures are good, you're still going to get your eggs. But should it ever happen that push comes to shove, you can manipulate the lights by using green lights, which will help your chickens to produce strong shelled eggs, and basically to continue dropping eggs. And yeah, the most important word for the day is ventilation. So yeah, guys, I don't know if you guys have any more questions. I haven't even checked my DM. I actually have a DM. Oh, okay. No, this one is something that I will address afterwards. Yes, Abuti?
Okay, on the ventilation issue, I just want to find out, is there any way of being able to measure whether you have adequate ventilation or not? Because we have thermometers that shows, I think they are hydrometers. They only show humidity. So you can read your humidity and you can read your temperature. Now, about ventilation, is there any measure that you can say, okay, there is adequate ventilation in this place? Because now, is that time where we're going to start sealing our houses and making sure that we conserve the heat. So I just want to make sure, is there anything that one can use to measure adequate ventilation?
That is a great question. Okay, so this one requires personal experience and a lot of time spent in your chicken coop. Okay, so like I said before, that when you look at the big farms, you will see that they check the wind direction. And from the side where the wind is coming from, they open it just a little bit so that the wind blows out on the side. You open the other side more, or all the way down, so that there's still like some air coming in, but it's not blowing in, because that side is not the one that is bringing in the air. So how you can tell that your house is not well ventilated, you can also see with the humidity, because uh, when humidity goes all the way up, then it means that your ventilation is not good. And also, another thing that will help you have good ventilation is to ensure that your house is clean and doesn't have wetness on the ground. So to tell that, or to be able to see that there isn't ventilation, when you go into your chicken house, it will smell very gassy. So that build up of gases is the reason why we should have ventilation, not because we want chickens to feel air going through their feathers. It's so that the build up of gas is not there. So the moment when you go into your house and a strong smell hits you, it smells like urine. It's Then your ventilation is not clean your house. So one thing that also, guys, you need to know is that the the chicken house gets wet more frequent in winter because of lack of ventilation. But if your ventilation is good, then even if you have a whole week's of droppings on your sawdust, it will be dry. And when it's dry, it doesn't smell. When it doesn't smell, it means that your ventilation is good. So that's how you have to spend time in your chicken coop. You can't continuously send, but if you are sending someone, you must tell them they need to use their nose. There's a diagram that talks about how you raise chickens. It points at your nose, your eyes, and your ears. So those are the things that you use when you are raising your chickens. You have to continuously use your nose to smell how the house is. You use your eyes to look at the behavior of your chickens. You use your ears to listen to their breathing and understand their behavior. So yeah, I don't know if I've answered you, Abuti.
No, it's clear, Amanda. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, guys, I I think if it wasn't for Abuti Hang, you guys would have probably left without all this information that he's pulling out because you're not asking any questions. So, but I guess sometimes you find that you have more questions when you're already in the game, you know. So that's why we open our DMs, that you guys can actually come through, because some of these things you will experience them, and then you will wonder, okay, what's going on here? It's not in the book, it's not on the internet, but it's definitely with us. It's one of us has experienced it and will be able to help one another. And yeah, I think that is basically the end. Because I'm not getting. If you guys are afraid of speaking in the space, you can send me a DM with your question. But I'm not. I'm not seeing any questions anymore. So I would like to think that we are done for the evening. And I would just like to say thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for your time. Time is a scarce resource that can never be regained. It's not like money. So, for you guys to be here, I hope that the space was valuable to you. And I look forward to many more spaces or poultry spaces. And if you guys have anything that you would like for us to cover, a topic, you can come through to my DM and suggest. I know that somebody had suggested water purification or water whatever, and we actually did it last week. So if you guys have, because you're the ones that are aware of your challenges, then if I'm not going to be able to cover that, I always get speakers to come through to share their knowledge so that we can all be taught and be filled with knowledge. So, yeah, guys, I think, Abuti, do you have any closing remarks?
Yeah, I will just say that just touching on a few things on the topic before closing. Feeding ratios for broilers, guys. I do get this question a lot. Always make sure that there is feed and drinking, potable water that you can drink. Make sure that feed and water is available all the time. You don't go and say, okay, it's time to feed my broilers now. Then you give them feed, and later on you say, okay, now I must withhold the feed and so forth. Don't do that unless if you are going to administer medication and so forth. So you will get directions where they will say to you, okay, starve them for an hour or so. But if not, always make sure that feed and water is available. If you can't drink that water, your chickens can't drink it. And let me see, housing temperatures and that. All right, fine. You can't not have a thermometer. You can't. I have to stress this, as Amanda, because we still have farmers who thinks they can do without it. So you have to have a thermometer. You must ask farmers to give you that table that will show you temperatures that you can follow at certain ages and so forth. As Amanda will give you that. I will also give you that as well. Okay, and winter. All right, heating mechanisms. She's spoken about various heating mechanisms that are available. I've tried almost all of them, and I have done them wrong, most of them. I've only learned today from Ozamanda that I was doing them wrong, some of them. Thank you very much. So I think that you've given us enough information to carry us through the winter. Aus Amanda, you're really a blessing. You could have helped those guys work on Game of Thrones. Thank you.
Game of Thrones. Thank you so much, Abuti. The diagram that Abuti is talking about, or the guidelines for the temperatures, actually the tweet is attached to the space. It's there at the top, broiler house temps. Um, that's what you can work with, and it will be a perfect way for you to know where you stand. And yeah, I think the everything was covered, and I don't think I have any more to say. So, guys, with that being said, I wish you a very good evening. The next space, I will announce the topic. If you guys don't come through with suggestions, I will have a space. I was thinking of doing um, insurance for farms. I don't know if you guys would want to have a space like that where you understand exactly if for insurances to insure our farming businesses, what exactly do they insure us for? I mean, if my chickens die, are they going to give me a payout or what? Yes, Abuti?
Yes, I support that. I also want to be present. I think there's a lot to learn. I know 400 farmers, not a single one of them has insurance. Thank you. So I'm looking forward to that. I just wanted to say, because you were asking if we'd be interested in that. I will be interested in that. Thank you very much. And I know that there's a lot of guys who'd like to learn about insurance in farming.
Okay, great. So it's done. I'm going to make sure that my speakers are available. Dante, good evening.
Evening, guys. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good, good. I just wanted to put in a suggestion of something that I would really like to hear more about. Concerning as far as prices. I know we spoke about it a few weeks ago about feed prices, but just to kind of like get on, it's something I would like us to talk about, like you guys to cover in the next coming spaces as far as is it better to buy feed from Alzo, or is it better for you to mix it yourself? And basically, the dynamics of taking both approaches and which one would work for. Well, basically, depending on what you have access to, which one would work best for you. So it's something I would like for us to cover, and how to basically mix feed, the kind of nutrients that are required for you to be able to mix your feed. And there's been this thing that has been trending, people buying the pellet maker. It's something that I would also like for us to also cover and just have more knowledge about it. Thank you.
All right. We had a scientist and a doctor uh, um in the space in Jan, and they were talking about feed production. So they did mention some of the ratios and what is actually needed in the feed production. But I think maybe that's the more complicated type. I know that there is a farm, Dem Farms in Kenya. They actually mix their own feed, and they've placed their ratios on the timeline. I think I do have a screenshot of that, but at the end of the day, you have to experiment. Once you try out that, you need to experiment with 100 chickens to see if it's going to work. Um but yeah, I mean, all of us, honestly, all of us want to have our own feed because feed prices are killing us. Today I was in Food Lovers Market and in Spa, and they were selling extra large eggs, extra large, at 100 rand 60 eggs. And I'm like, what are these guys doing? Because mina my extra large eggs for 30, it's 65 rands. So now, so so it's 130. And they are killing me most when they're doing that, because people are gonna be like, ah girl, no, sorry, we're gonna buy it spa. So they are killing us with the feed, and then they manipulate the prices there in the store, and then you can't compete. You are left with people that are loyal. Thank God for loyalty. Yes, Awuti.
Yes. I don't know. You gonna touch on this also a little bit, or are we just leaving it? Because we all want to mix our feed, but there is a few things that we can say about this. We're gonna talk to this now, or we're closing.
I don't think we should talk about it. I was just mentioning to him that we actually had a very lengthy space. I think we had 2 episodes of it, of feed production. We can bring the doc back again. But thing is, one thing that I've realized about scientists and smart learned people, they struggle to dumb down things. So we end up not understanding some of the things that they say. So it's always best to just bring him close and work with him when the time comes, because he mentioned how some vitamins, you don't just get that vitamin as that, like maybe uh let's say vitamin C, it doesn't come as one thing. You have to mix this and that to get vitamin C. So there's knowledge that needs to be there. Yes, Abuti.
Okay, fine. So just to summarize for Dante, I think the best thing that we need to look at is, even when you mix your feed, the big question is, where are you going to get your macro ingredients? Because you want to save money. So your micro ingredients, you can't make that, or you can if you go for natural and you do research on the micro ingredients. But your macro ingredients, your sunflower, your maize, and your wheat and all that, that's where you want to save money, because you're not going to want to save money for your amino acids and so forth. So um I've done a little bit of a research to look at the ingredients, and depending on where you're going to buy, you might end up finding yourself paying the same price as buying prepared feed, and also paying more in terms of not getting the mixture right. So the best way to go about it is, I would suggest to anybody who wants to start mixing their own feed to say, okay, get the macro ingredients from Table Shaker. You can also get them from me as well, because I've been doing research for more than 2 years on this. And you can get the macro ingredients. Go to the auctions and places where they're selling your ingredients, and then compare the prices. Only then you can start mixing your feed. Because if you're not going to get yellow maize cheap somewhere, and you're not going to get sunflower cheap somewhere, and so forth, yes, you can buy them and mix them. But then what will it help when you end up with the same cost as what could have been had you bought a prepackaged one? So eventually, what I have seen is that poultry farmers will have to eventually start planting a crop or two to then be able to supplement when they are mixing their own feed. That's all I wanted to mention for those who want to do it, to say you don't have to wait. Look at maybe planting maize, wheat, or sunflower, or soya bean, because those are one of your main ingredients in there, your macro ingredients. And then the micro ingredients you have to buy from the lab, or you can use natural ones, which we will also give you if you go into the DMs and so forth. So that information is available. There was a space on it. I think there's a recording of that. But if it is complicated and too scientific, like Table Shaker has said, you can obviously get it from a layman like myself, because I'm going to tell you as it is. and then you can buy the stuff. Literally you can walk into Alzu tomorrow and buy the things you need, and then you'll get the micro ingredients from other shops. I forget the name of them, but I have those quotations of all the ingredients you need to mix feed. But after I got them, they didn't make sense for me to mix because of the price of the ingredients at the time. Sorry, us Amanda, I took long on that. Thank you.
No, it's good. We appreciate it. Okay, Dante, if you do need the link to that space, I will try to find it. You can tell me in the DMs and I'll just send it to you. All right, guys. I think we have covered everything before we go talk about other things, because there's a lot to talk about. So yeah, come through, tell me what you guys want us to cover in our next space. Okay, the next one is going to be about insurance, farm business insurance, and then from there you guys can just tell me what you want us to cover and we can do that. All right, thank you so much for joining. Have a great evening.